right, we got movement has become a problem. Apex Legends from your boy Struth Gaming. Okay, let me see what's going on.
Apex Legends has come a very long way. When the game first launched, there was a strong sentiment, especially from the Titanfall 2 community, that the movement was too restrictive and watered down. But over time, movement players took matters into their own hands and uncovered all sorts of tech that has changed the way the game can be played.
I think when Apex first came out, I didn't play it because I didn't even know about it. Like, yes, it was like marketed like decently, but it just wasn't on my radar of, things that are just like good to, just come out and play. But I played a shitload of Titanfall 2, and if people that played old school Titanfall 2 then jumped into Apex, it's understandable for them to think that the movement's restrictive. I can't wall run. I can't double jump. I can't refresh my double jump off of a wall. Yes, you do have like a slide jump that preserves like momentum and whatnot. But at the time, in like early seasons of Apex, a lot of people weren't really doing a lot of movement things. About the only thing they were doing with movement was either playing Octane and popping stim, or like popping a Bloodhound ult, or messing around with the Pathfinder grapple. I think that's about it as far as like movement stuff goes. If anybody did discover something, it was probably like by accident, and there was like no real way to like kind of replicate it, I would imagine. But because a lot of the terms that we use in Apex originated from Titanfall 2. I mean, there's like a what is it? A Grandmaster guide of Titanfall 2 movement. It's like an hour plus long, and it shows you every type in term of movement that exists in Titanfall. So I mean, they use the same engine, but I think the devs like tweaked certain things going into Apex. They obviously had to disable like wall running for obvious reasons and whatnot, but the same terms that we hear in Apex came from Titanfall 2.
The issue is, in my opinion, that all of these new creative ways to move around are unintended, which brings a whole host of problems with it. First and foremost is the varying difficulty and inconsistency of executing them. From the player's point of view, this can be quite frustrating. You expect your
Oh
character
yeah.
to move a certain way, but sometimes it just doesn't happen.
I think the two main movement techs Struth is probably going to talk about is super gliding and probably that crazy ass like neo strafing shit. Uh, and I would probably compare the timing to, hit the buttons in the correct way akin to doing like a one frame link in a fighting game. So in, like the fighting game world, whenever you do a combo, most of the time you can like cancel like a move or a button that does more damage and has higher priority from a move that does less damage, like a jab or a light punch or something like that. Like the order will go like light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, and then special, and then super. That's like the order of priority that you can like cancel in. But some moves have so much hit stun that, like, let's say you do like a medium punch into like a forward medium punch, but you can only combo it if you do it in the correct time frame. So normally those moves do not combo, but if done in a certain way, like a within one frame according to the game, then they will combo. It's pretty much like that when it comes to super gliding and like neo strafing and stuff like that. The amount of error that is allowed to that you have to perform those moves is very it's very tight. But if you look at what happened in fighting games, a lot more fighting games started to incorporate input buffering. So let's say, for example, what about the old paint? There you go. So then we get the brush, whip out the yellow. Okay, so normally a quarter circle punch is like a fireball move, and it'll be like that. Or wait, is it like? Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, and then it'll be plus like a punch. That's a fist. There's a thumb, and it'll be like that move. Well, and you'll get like a fireball motion. So in older fighting games, it would be like the input would read if you do it like that in a I don't know, like a lab setting or practice mode. It'll look like down, diagonal, and then forward, and then I don't know, God, your punch button. Like that. But when you actually look at the game and realize how fast it recognizes like these inputs, older games would be very tight. So what does that mean by tight? It means the inputs had to be damn near close to exact to perform like a fireball motion. But now with input buffering, then everything turns into you can input way more directions and like a punch move, and the game will realize what you are trying to do. So instead of like this being like the only input that you can input for like a fireball motion, maybe it'll go like down, maybe you fucked up, and maybe you did this, and then maybe you went like down again. Maybe you tried to go like a little bit more diagonal, and then maybe you did too much diagonal, and then eventually you get to like the forward motion, and then hell, maybe you even went up a little bit, and then eventually you get the punch in there. So this also counts as a fireball. This also counts as a fireball. This is what happens when more modern fighting games incorporate input buffering. It gives you a little more leeway to perform the quote unquote more complex movement input of like a fireball motion. So all that just to say that they made it easier to do the thing. Yeah. But with Apex, like things like neo strafing or super gliding, the timing is very tight. But also, it is like a skill gap thing. The people that started to practice at doing, neo strafing and what do you call it, super gliding, they've already put in the time and effort to doing, this very a tight movement. And there exists now a skill gap. You can either, and the same thing as with mantle jump or mantle jumping. I forgot what it's called. I think that's what it's called. That thing where like you're on the rope and then you like jump off, you grab, and then you let go, and then you just fly up or whatever. It's something like that. The same thing. The inputs are very tight, and unless you like consciously practice them, and like watch videos like how to do them properly, it's not like an intuitive thing. The game does not explain any of it in the game at all. You have to go on YouTube and figure all this shit out. So there's that. So it's completely understandable when a new player comes into Apex and then all of a sudden they are met with like a random player that starts doing all of these things to make their character like as quick as humanly like possible, and then all of a sudden to the new player it's like, well, what the fuck is this? Did I miss a tutorial or something? Like, what's going on? Did I miss this? Like, what's happening? This guy is moving at like 3 times the speed that I'm sprinting through the air, and I can't do anything. So yeah, so that's just, that's the current state of affairs.
And when you're fighting other players, it can be hard to know if they will move within the intended constraints of the game or if they're going to move in impossible ways with movement tech. Both sides experience frustration with this, all because it is unintended. When you have a game like Titanfall 2 with incredibly responsive movement, wall
Hmm.
running, jumping, double jumping, and so on, where that is the intended design,
Yeah,
executing movement here is both accessible and consistent.
yeah,
That's fun for the player doing it, and it's fun or at least expected for the player fighting against it. There is
yeah. So essentially, with Titanfall 2, pretty much everybody could do the same movement. Pretty much.
still enormous potential to have better movement than other players while still having access to all the same tools. In Apex Legends, it has evolved into a divide between movement players and everybody else. They're both playing the same game, but their
Yeah.
characters are capable of moving in completely different ways, all depending on their knowledge of and willingness to learn movement tech. This even bleeds into the
Oh, he gonna whip out the dot chart. Oh, I saw this. I know where this is going. Oh man. Okay, so this, if you haven't seen this before, this is a chart. This is a chart of R5R accuracy. So R5 is what was it like Apex Reloaded 5. I forgot exactly, but it's like a private server. It's not a private server. It's like a separate server that is not like official from like the respawn servers. It's a completely independent thing. It uses the same physics, mechanics, and just movement system as Apex, and essentially, you just do 1v1s. You queue in. There's like some aim training shits, but the main thing for R5 is the 1v1s. And when you queue into like a free for all 1v1 like round, there's like about 15-ish players, all, or maybe 16, or some like even number, so that everyone's like constantly, the moment you spawn in, and it's in a very tight little area. Well, not tight, but it'll either start at like medium range or kind of close range. So like the only thing will be between you and like the enemy is like a box or like an elbow corner or something like that. Like close to medium range is like the main thing that they're going for. And you just drill like 1v1s. The moment you kill someone, you're on to the next match. The moment you kill someone, you're on to the next match. You just rapid fire 1v1s. So, what you have here is the top 10,000 R5R players by playtime from 2/22/24 to 6/22/24. So this is about 4 months of data right here. 4 months of data and about 10,000 players. So this is going to be the damning part. Average accuracy by input. So controller 33.57, M&K 25.72. Controller players' average accuracy is about 30.5% higher. 1 in 4 controller players have higher accuracy than 99.93% of M&K players. That's because of aim assist. In Apex, you do have the option to turn aim assist on or off, but currently nobody is playing with it off. Top 3 controller accuracy. Evolved Xander at 51.10% accuracy. Overall accuracy rank 1. SSG Koi at 47.71% accuracy. Overall number 2. And then Winter Minjian. I'm sorry, I butchered that name. At 47.02. So there's like about a 4% difference from like the number 2 and like the number 1. That's okay. Sure. Overall rank 3, and then the top 3 M&K accuracy. Kazuma Wonton, 38.9. Overall rank, the 391. So the number one M&K player only holds the 391st spot. So there are 390 players above him, and they're all on controller when it comes to accuracy. Koken 2, number 2 M&K player at 37.7. Overall rank, 619. So the number 1 M&K player is about 400, and the number 2 is about 600. So even right there, there's a huge discrepancy in terms of like placings. But if you look, it's, what is this, about a percent difference in accuracy? And about a single percent difference in accuracy means you're about 200 spots off when it comes to M&K. Unstable armor, number 3, 36.73. Overall accuracy, 902. So you minus another percent, more or less, and then you drop another 300 placings. So take that for what it is. Average KD by input. Controller 1.15, M&K 0.87. Controller players average is 31.5% higher. Okay, and then you have all the data right here. All the blue are controller players. All the like light orangish kind of salmon colored is M&K, and then this dark red is like what, like in the blend, I take it. So yeah.
Aim assist versus mouse and keyboard debate. Movement tech is much more accessible and useful for mouse and keyboard. So
Movement tech is much more accessible to M&K than aim assist is to M&K. Well, yeah, but you do have to practice movement, but any controller player doesn't have to practice aim. I would say that.
it often feels like the only thing keeping the input afloat. Do you choose to play on controller and have a much better time with aiming, or do you play on mouse and keyboard and use movement to overcome the aiming disadvantage?
I'll say this, if anybody ever comes up to me and be like, Cornel, should I play Apex Legends? Should I? Yes or no? I would probably say go ahead and try it out. And then I would also caveat that with, you should probably play on controller. It is just you can't lie about the facts. You can't lie about the graphs. You can't lie about the statistics. Statistically, what are you going to have more fun doing? Or even to a casual. Do you want to tell a casual, hey, M&K feels great, but you have to practice? No casual has said that ever. What does a casual want to do? They just want to jump in and kill some people. All right, that's it. What input has the easier time killing people? It's the roller. Let me read this. Okay. So I don't know what he's responding to. Absolutely yes. This was a line in the sand we drew super early on. Okay, our theory is that one of the greatest things about Apex Combat is that it can be, isn't always, but can be proactive rather than reactive. Is the combat can be proactive rather than reactive? Well, yeah. It's a BR. I don't know what this sentence is supposed to like state. It's a battle royale. You're either fighting or you are reacting to a fight. You're either starting a fight or you're reacting to a fight. There's nothing unique about this sentence. A lot of BRs do follow the same thing. What I mean by that is that in many other games, particularly games with low TTK, I don't know what he means by low time to kill. Does that mean like a long time to kill, or low as in fast time to kill, like CS or Valorant? Combat comes down to how quickly you can react to what the enemy does. Apex creates 3v3 engagements where you can predict to some degree what the enemy will do and get ready for it, where you can predict to some degree what the enemy will do. Well, in pubs and ranked, the enemy will always push you. So you can pretty much predict that. If you get cracked or something, the enemy will pretty much always push you. This feels a lot more satisfying in the long run than just having amazing reflexes. And those reflexes, of course, still matter. A core element to enable proactive combat is what we call well-defined front lines. You know where the enemy is relative to you, and crossing the front line is a definite moment of escalation. Yeah, we achieve this by, ironically enough, slowing movement down a lot. Titanfall 2 definitely never had well-defined front lines. Everyone was just grappling, double jumping, wall running all over the place. Well, yeah, Titanfall was also like even though it was about the same movement system, you take an arena shooter. You know, all the matches in Titanfall, you're in an arena fighting. You're doing either team deathmatch or what was it like? What was it called? The one with like the bots and like you kill all the like little enemies, and then you could call in your Titan to like kill all the enemy pilots. It was like pilot v pilot, and I forgot that other one, like the main one that everyone played, where you like go around and kill all the NPCs. I forgot, but yeah, those are two just fundamentally the goal of each game type: battle royale versus arena shooter. The game type defines where the front lines are, and you know it's an ever revolving, changing front line when it comes to arenas. Now you can have an entire team just like chilling back, or you can have, but nobody ever really played like that because the game incentivized players to just keep moving. Keep moving was fun. There were very little penalties to like staying in place. Like yes, you could crouch in what do you call it in Titanfall, but it just you didn't really gain anything by just crouching in place and like crouch spamming. That's not really like yes, you can, but it's not really a thing. The game more incentivizes you to keep going forward. Just W key everything or just double jump on something, slide jump, grapple. You know, the game does a ton of things to incentivize the player to just keep moving. With Apex, it's different. Where was I? So what does this mean for Valkyrie? Well, it means that her flying, which breaks a lot of our movement rules, cannot in and of itself be an aggressive movement. Oh, was this like when Valk first came out? She can't fly out over a building you considered safe and start shooting you. She cannot just negate the cover you're behind by shooting at you from the air. That would break a lot of what makes Apex good combat. So instead, we made her jetpack really loud and noticeable, and required her to land and bring her gun up before she could re-engage you. This allows her to reposition aggressively, yes, but also gives you time to get ready for her. Make a plan, what you'll do once her gun comes back up. Yeah, that's fine.
Apex Legends was obviously designed with a more conservative approach to pacing and movement when
Yeah.
compared to previous titles like Titanfall, which
The whole being conservative with the movement, when this comes back to the whole argument of casuals versus like hardcore players. Like what do casuals want? Casuals want, you know, the random shit. They want some sort of, how do I say this? When an enemy starts moving around and bouncing around, that's out of their realm of like thought. When they take a gunfight against another player, it's like, well, what the fuck? This guy's just like bouncing everywhere on this wall. He's like climbing up, and then he's like just whipping himself like over here. It's like, how does that happen? All right. But like to a hardcore person, it's like, oh, I know what he did. He did a fatigue jump. And then he did a fatigue jump into like on the grass, and then he climbed up, and then he like super glided right here, and then he like did some like back and forth tap strafes. Maybe he did like some neo strafes or some shit, and then he just like conserved his momentum by bee hopping, down here and whatever. It makes sense to a hardcore person when a bunch of movement is executed, but to a casual player, it's unfathomable when they see a character like just whipping themselves around like that.
Makes sense, considering it's a battle royale that focuses much more on positioning and strategy while also having a long time to kill. Positioning would matter a whole lot less if everyone was just wall running and double jumping their way around the map.
Yeah,
You could argue for and against this sort of movement in a
yeah.
BR, but
But so one of the arguments against this is that movement has never killed any player ever. The thing that kills players is bullets, grenades, and abilities. And those and all players have access to those things.
Apex went for a more conservative route, and that's what the game is being designed around and what we're dealing with. My stance is that movement tech in Apex Legends is a bad thing overall, and I know that may be a controversial take. Rest assured, my issue with it is that it's unintended, and all the baggage that brings with it. You have to understand
Yeah,
that I don't have a problem with good movement in a game,
yeah,
so long as it's designed to have good movement. Apex wasn't designed to have so many different ways to move around, so all these new ways to move aren't a good fit for it.
yeah. The game. So even something as basic as tap strafing and wall bouncing for M and K, even those basic things, which most M and K players can do, even those things aren't don't have a tutorial in the game because it was not it was just unintended for that to happen. All right, you look at Titanfall and you just play the campaign, the game gives you tutorials on how to do most of the movement tech. It doesn't get like too granular when it comes to like super glides and all this shit, but it tells you, hey, if you want to double jump again, latch onto the wall, double jump, latch onto the other wall. Those basic things can carry you through the entire game. There is nothing in Apex Legends that gives you a movement tutorial. It's as simple as that. So all of this third-party movement shit is just so foreign to a new player whenever they decide to play the game.
Let's use super glides as an example. This is where you jump and then crouch with a 1 frame gap during a mantle to launch yourself. Depending on your hardware, frame rate, technique, and so on, your chance at successfully super gliding can change quite dramatically. Let's use
Mm-hmm.
50% success rate as a convenient example, although you can get much higher. Imagine if they made super gliding an official mechanic in the game. Something like pressing crouch and space at the same time when mantling will super glide for you. Cool. Now it's
I'll say this: I would be more for all these like advanced movement techniques in the game if the game actually acknowledged that they exist and gave you like a little tutorial to how to do all of them, and maybe even add a little input buffer to it. Because if you look at the history of fighting games, for the most part, most fighting games are just easier now compared to in the beginning. It's just a fact of the matter. Yes, there's probably like a couple outliers that still maintain that like hardcore tight, technique and whatnot, but you're not hearing anything about those fighting games. Nobody's playing those tight fucking fighting games with the tight timings for all of them and whatnot. Apex is doing the same thing. If you make a lot of this movement tech slightly easier, you don't have to you don't have to completely butcher it and make it so like day one Andy can do it. You add a little input buffer to doing some of this stuff. You add a tutorial on how to do this stuff. More players can engage with the movement and discover how fun Apex really is.
official and intended. But they configured it to only work 50% of the time. That's
And even think about this. For M and K, it is unintentional that you can move and loot. That is actually a bug. Moving and looting.
A bizarre choice, right? Imagine the feedback they get after implementing that. Of course, people would complain that it's unreliable and that they should make it work 100% of the time. That makes way more sense.
Yeah.
So, why should we be okay and happy with the current state of superglides? What I
Well, the only people that are happy with the current state of super glides are people that have practiced and can do it mostly consistently. And for the most part, that's like a very small percentage of the player base. Even if you want to cut the player base in half, controller versus like MK, like which is stupid. Like I would say the people that can do this type of shit consistently, 3% of the players. I'll just say about 3% of the players can do these things consistently. Everybody else, the 97%, maybe they know about it, maybe they try it, maybe they climb up a thing and like they try to do it and then they just whiff it and then they just like crouch walk over the dang thing or whatever. And because they tried to do it and they failed at it, they're like, oh, this is fucking stupid. Why would I gamble on doing this? I'll just play this little area different. And then all of a sudden the game gets like kind of shrunken with how many movement options that you can just perform during a gunfight. And also I would say that I would encourage players to try to practice something. If they see like a movement tech, yeah, sure, go ahead and practice it. Try to get better. There's nothing wrong with that. But to try to encourage the entirety of the player base to practice at something, it's kind of far-fetched.
I'm concerned about is why so many players feel the need to learn and use all of this movement tech. If you break
Well, they feel the need to learn it because if they don't, they're simply going to get left behind in terms of like skill gap. And since shooting games are competitive by nature, if you're not doing the things that everybody else is doing, you're just behind.
break it down, each piece of tech helps players alleviate certain problems and pain points with their gameplay experience. Let's go through a few of them, starting with ziplines. There is a phenomenon of certain areas being dubbed streamer buildings, and a common defining characteristic of these buildings is having multiple stories and important ziplines. When used in the intended fashion, ziplines are a death trap. You are locked into a relatively slow and extremely predictable path that gets you beamed if anyone happens to be looking your way.
Yeah.
So the gameplay pain point here is that trying to take the zipline to higher ground gets you killed with minimal counterplay. That sucks. So players like ACU popularize different zipline tech, which are basically clever ways to rapidly connect and disconnect from it.
Yeah.
So you can now use it to traverse while also being very hard to hit. This means players like ACU who know how to do it can move around the zip faster and safer than other players, while also getting free damage and kills on players who do not know how to do it.
Yep.
In my opinion, the problem here is with excessive verticality and an over-reliance on ziplines for gaining height. This is especially true in newer maps and points of interest. For whatever reason, the devs are obsessed with ziplines, which makes zipline tech feel necessary.
Yeah.
This is the sort of problem that could be solved with map design that reduces excessive high ground and provides multiple ways to traverse height that doesn't rely so heavily on ziplines and abilities.
So notice what he said. He said points of interest or just areas on the map with excessive verticality. There's nothing wrong with verticality. Anybody that plays a shooting game knows that it's hard to shoot directly above you and directly below you, whether you're on MK or controller. It is what it is. Shooting directly above you, directly below you is just hard. And then when it only gets exacerbated when people are using movement tech, like on a zip line, and then all of a sudden their hitboxes are moving faster than intended, according to developers. So, yeah.
Another older example I really like is with bunny hop healing. This is still a thing to an extent, but early on in Apex, you could pretty much heal entirely on the move with bunny hopping.
Yeah.
When they heavily nerfed this, I remember being quite upset with the change. And that sounds hypocritical, right? Well, I wasn't upset with them nerfing the movement tech, I was upset with how this negatively impacted my gameplay. You see, the reason bunny hop healing felt so good to me was that it allowed me and my teammates to heal up in relative safety while being third partied after a fight.
Yeah.
Whereas after the nerf, you were often totally stranded looting a death box, and if you ran away to heal, you'd get collapsed on before healing up.
Hmm.
Bunny hop healing was very strong mid fight too, which was definitely a problem, and I agree with them removing it. But now being third partied is harder to deal with. Okay, so if the problem bunny hop
Oh,
healing was
yeah.
solving was the frustration and unfairness of being third partied, what could be done to help it instead? Well,
People have proposed a bunch of different things to try to alleviate the issue of third partying. One thing is that like upon a team wipe or something, either like on a player kill or a team wipe, you get like some sort of temporary shield or uh, some sort of like amount of health and shield back. That's like one proposal. I mean, I have no idea how good or bad that would be. I think that'd be a good thing to try as an LTM mode. You know, but I mean, it's just an issue with not only Apex but all battle royales are victim to this thing of third partying.
well, for the record, Apex is probably too deep and entrenched for any drastic changes to take place, but
Yeah,
I'll mention them anyway. Being third party,
yeah. I would say, what are we in? Like season 21, 22, or something like that. Apex is probably not going to change. If you're unhappy with Apex, I would say just stop playing and just play something else. Apex is not going to change. You know, you can look at just simply the history of it and all the buffs and nerfs that they've done to characters, to guns, what developers want to do with the game, what they don't want to do with the game, the strength of aim assist. You know, there was that one time where they tried to remove tap strafing, and literally everybody was like up in arms about that. Like, uh, yeah, like just yeah.
it is mostly a matter of time. Fights between two teams tend to take too long, so other
Yeah.
teams have ample time to make their way over.
Well, here's the thing. Depending on what skill level, skill bracket that you look at, team fights will take longer at low levels and tend to be like very quick at you know, even the highest levels. Just simply for that the purpose of like that accuracy chart we saw in the beginning. Better players have higher accuracy, therefore they can one clip more consistently. And even if you were to just have like a, I don't know, some random ass white gun and you just put like a full one clip into somebody, chances are you will probably come close to killing them, if not killing them, if you hit all the bullets. That's just a fact of the matter. You know, let's say you have like two weapons, no attachments, and they're both like, you know, just like white weapons. You have two of them. You know, you get one guy. You know, you start off with like white armor. You drain some guy. You drain his shield. You drain all of his health. He's got one health left. What do? You just swap guns and then hit him with that last shot. That is more possible when your accuracy is higher. However, when you try to do that same situation as like a bronze player, yeah, the bronze player will end up probably rinsing all of their bullets out of their you know, guns, you know, off drop or whatever to like kill a single player.
To you. And over time, the power of weapons has been repeatedly nerfed,
Oh
shields have
yeah.
been improved, and
Hmm.
many defensive legends have been added that drastically slow down the pace of a fight. Trying to push a team into buildings set up with gas traps, Watson fences, reinforced doors, and so on can take a very long time.
Yeah.
A simple answer to speeding up engagements would be to reduce the time to kill and make buildings less defensible and harder to hold.
Oh, let me hear that again.
Forced doors, and so on can take a very long time. A simple answer to speeding up engagements would be to reduce the time to kill and make buildings less defensible and harder to hold.
Ooh, speed up time to kill and make buildings less defensible. You would fundamentally have to change like so many characters uh, from doing that. You know, if you speed up the time to kill, um, you know, Apex is mostly decided on close range gunfights. If you speed up time to kill currently, then you immediately invite, you know, SMGs back into the meta. And what input does really good with SMGs? The one that has like very high accuracy, the controller. But then again, you could also think about that on the flip side. And, you know, if you take a gunfight at like extremely far ranges, you know, with either like a 30-30 or a sniper or something like that, you could say, oh, the M&K bro has the advantage because, you know, he's out of range of aim assist and you just have to have the good aim. As far as like the whole buildings being less defensible and whatnot, you'd have to go into detail with like all of the defensive legends, you know, like was it like Caustic, Rampart, Catalyst, so on and so forth. This is like a bunch of defensive legends. You'd have to go like into detail to try to figure out like, and if even if you like nerf those characters, there will still be an emerging character that is just slightly better than all the other ones. So you could like nerf everybody, but there's still going to be like the best one.
Ultimately, the pros and cons of any large changes like this would need to be worthwhile, but for now,
Yeah.
let's keep entertaining this train of thought. Time to kill is extremely important to this movement tech discussion, and I'll bundle it in with the rest of the tech so we're not here forever going over every single one.
Yeah.
The majority of movement tech serves the purpose of giving you the tools to overcome disadvantages.
Yeah.
Namely 1vx scenarios, which are very common when solo queuing, both in no-fill and with random teammates. It is extremely difficult to beat 3 stacks when you are playing by yourself or with uncoordinated and or lesser skilled teammates.
Oh
In a
yeah.
straight up fight, you have basically 0% chance of winning a gunfight 1v3,
Yeah.
especially toward the later game. There is so much damage you need to do to take down 3 players.
Mm-hmm.
If they are all wearing red armor, that's 675 health, and another 15% damage reduction for legends with the fortified passive.
Yep.
With the current wingman, a full mag does 270 damage with all body shots. It would take you almost 3 full mags of hitting every single shot to take down 3 players.
Yeah.
Most players would be lucky to have 50% accuracy, so that's 5 full mags to take down 3 players with no fortified passive, no gun shield, no
Yeah.
healing, and so on.
And that's if you're playing as a very, very good solo player, taking advantage of, you know, lines of sight and whatnot. The moment you have more than one player in your view, you know, like if the normal time to kill is like 1.5 seconds, you cut that in half, and then all of a sudden the time to kill becomes 0.75 of a second. That's very quick.
An R99 with a purple mag does 286 damage per magazine, so you can see the results are largely the same. While I don't think you should expect to win 1v3, the sheer wall of health you're up against makes kiting around with movement
Yep.
tech an appealing way to overcome a numbers disadvantage. We're really diving down the rabbit hole here with time to kill, as
Yeah.
its implications are far reaching. An important thing to understand is that time to kill directly correlates to the skill gap between players.
Mm-hmm.
The higher it is, the harder it becomes for a lower skilled player to overcome a higher skilled player.
Mm-hmm.
For example, imagine a 1v1 between a bronze player and an ALGS pro player.
Oh yeah, it'd be night and day. There's absolutely no chance that the bronze player has against the ALGS pro player. And then you could make the whole argument of, well, a bronze player should never win against an ALGS pro player, and that's a whole argument unto itself. You could probably do a whole philosophical thing about that because that's how it is in real life. You know, if I am just a random Joe Schmo playing basketball, what I would never think to win against like a 1-7 against LeBron James or something like that, or even like the worst NBA player for that matter. I mean, you know, it whatever.
Pro is going to win just about 100% of the time. But
Yeah.
what if the players had their health set to 1, so one shot kill? that bronze player is going to start picking up some wins.
Yeah.
Obviously, far fewer than the pro, but it is now possible for them to win. And now, let's set the health to 1 million. That bronze player would never win a duel, even
Yeah.
if they faced off a million times. What's happening here is that the longer the time to kill is, the more time a better player has to be better than the other player. On
Right.
average, their output is much higher, and now they have more time to provide that higher output. In Apex Legends, this problem is compounded by 3 stacking, so if you play with 2 other competent players,
Yeah.
your team's output on average is so much higher than that of 3 randoms of varying skill levels slapped together.
Yeah.
Much of the skill-based matchmaking debate actually comes down to the game's inherent time to kill. Lower skilled players aren't just at a disadvantage as you may expect as they're lower skilled, they honestly have almost no chance at all against a competent stack.
Yeah.
It's a very tricky problem for Apex to solve. Average to top level players don't like SBMM because the games on average are very competitive and you
Mhm.
feel forced to stack up and try hard, which you don't always want to do. But if there was no SBMM, the lower skill players would be utterly obliterated every game anytime they came across a somewhat decent player or team.
Yeah.
SBMM was never part of the conversation in a game like PUBG, with a
I had no idea that PUBG never had skill-based matchmaking. That's crazy to me. But then again, did PUBG support controllers? And if they did, well, like, what level of aim assist did they have as a percentage? I mean, I don't even know. But I mean, for the most part, no one is really complaining about skill-based matchmaking when you're playing the ranked version, the ranked mode of your game. You know, it's ranked. It's expected to have everybody about the same skill level as you. You know, you could argue like, diamonds going up against preds or something like that, or like low masters going up against preds or something. Like you could get into the semantics of it. But yeah, I don't. The issue comes into play when light skill-based matchmaking gets implemented into just the regular public version game mode of your game. Even more so when you have less just wonky fun game modes to play with when the goal isn't to kill your enemy. Yeah, like I think that Apex has a great, movement system at its disposal right now, but it is fumbling so hard in that it has not a lot of good, just fun, wonky, whatever modes to just fuck around in. Like everything has to be taken so seriously. The fact that the phrase limited time mode even exists is appalling. If you come up with a new mode, leave it in the game. Like, why would you put in content only to take it out? What, to create some sort of like FOMO for the general player base? That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Make up a bunch of random ass modes that take advantage of the movement and the gunplay in the game and just have them be for fun and just leave them in there. Literally make Halo Forge and put it in the game. Let players make their own modes. Just let it happen. All right? Because when you do that and you give players the power to start creating their own content, I think that's healthier for the entire player base as a whole. 100%. Like, why doesn't Apex have a Forge mode? Apex would kill so hard if it had a Forge mode, but it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, look at all the different modes Halo has. Look at all the different modes Call of Duty has. All the different modes that have been in a lot of other shooting games in the past and the present. Literally, and just take all those modes and just put them in there. What's so hard?
a very fast time to kill that shrinks the performance gap between players. They may have added it since I last played, but generally speaking, there was very little to no conversation around it for years.
Yeah.
I'm not at all advocating for Apex to have PUBG time to kill. It's just interesting to consider how impactful it is in almost every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
To tie this back into movement, a potential way to make all this tech feel less important would be to speed up the time to kill. Of course, you now need to juggle whether the ramifications of this change are a net positive or not, but regardless, let's entertain
Yeah.
this idea. This doesn't have to be drastic. Small changes can go a long way. In fact, they actually tried to do this back in Season 6.
Hmm.
At the start of this season, they reduced the armor values by 25. So, purple armor was 175 instead of 200, and red was 200 instead of 225.
Really? Dang, that's crazy. Was I there for that? Like, I think, what was it? When did I start playing? I think it was around like season 4, so maybe I was here for this. I don't remember. But either way, if I was playing in season 6, I still had no concept of what was good or bad about the game.
A relatively small change in the grand scheme of things, but they had to revert it after massive backlash.
Hmm.
This was a very interesting time for Apex, and I was personally really happy to see this change and thought it made the gameplay feel much better. I found that fights were faster and more decisive, third parties were less common, clutching out against multiple enemies was easier, while the game still felt like Apex. It was about a 12 to 18% difference in time to kill, depending on your armor, so it was impactful, but not enough to make it feel like PUBG or Call
Yeah.
of Duty. As you may have expected, streamers and pro players were mostly
I asked pro players about their opinions on the new time to kill. No, so no, it's too fast. No, it's too fast. This guy is like, maybe. No, it's too fast. No, it's too fast. No, it's too fast. Okay.
unhappy with this change, and these are the players who are most negatively impacted by it. Higher time to kill means their highly skilled stacks have more time to be better than everyone else.
And this is the impact that influencers have on the game. Influencers think this is a bad change. Their opinion will propagate throughout the rest of their audience. And this opinion is the new norm. So, yeah.
And what's probably the most interesting thing was how vocal lower skilled players were about this change to the time to kill being responsible for them losing more fights and games than before, when in reality it benefits them the most, at least in regards to in-game performance.
Yeah. I mean, because he already stated why it was possibly a good thing. When you lower time to kill, you give lower skilled players a slightly better chance to kill like top players. All right, top players want the longer time to kill. Lower skilled players want the faster time to kill. Should be the logic there, but this is like a hindsight type of deal. This is like in retrospect.
I think when time to kill is suddenly reduced and you then die in game, that it's natural to correlate the two and start blaming having less health than before. I found this thread on Reddit which shows many of the thoughts and opinions on this change at the time, which is an interesting read which I'll link to below. So where does that leave us? Well, they could slightly lower the time to kill to make 1vx fights more possible and speed up engagements, therefore making movement tech not feel so important. This could be done through health and shield changes, and or weapon buffs and nerfs. The big challenge would be convincing the community of the benefits to SBMM, skill disparity, third partying, and so on. Or maybe the time to kill is perfect and shouldn't be touched. Maybe that trade-off just isn't worth it. So how else could we address movement tech? It's drastic, but I really feel that it either needs to be officially implemented and supported, otherwise it should just be removed. I know that isn't going to be a popular opinion, especially among the movement community, and I don't think it's a change that should be made on its own. There would need to be compensatory changes like input-based matchmaking, and or replacing rotational aim assist with another method that doesn't change direction for you. A good way to think about the current movement tech available.
Yeah, I mean, Struth is just cooking right now. He's just teeing up and just swinging, 600 yards, 700 yards. Struth is just cooking right now.
Would be to imagine it as an official feature.
Yeah.
Map strafing is core to so much tech, so let's imagine that one. What if Apex had an input that allowed you to ignore your inertia and change direction midair? Visually, it could use a little boost from your jetpack thingo. Would that be a good addition to the game? Would we all be happy about that? I think the negative impact on readability wouldn't be worth it, but I'm curious to know what you think. The same exercise can be performed for just about all the movement tech there is.
Yeah.
If you like a current piece of movement tech, but don't like the idea of it being officially implemented, perhaps what you really like is the exclusivity and prestige of it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think what's most important for this topic is to consider why we're doing any of this. Why are we learning movement tech? What is it achieving? And could the same result be achieved through some other change to the game? I'm not trying to extinguish the growing movement community. In fact, I deeply
Yeah.
respect the work that goes into discovering the tech
Oh
and the
yeah.
effort that goes into executing it consistently. And I wish it wasn't.
Yeah, because this isn't a phenomenon unique to Apex. A lot of other fighting games have already gone through this. So in the fighting game community, uh, so there are things that are called like montage combos that are like really hard, high skill to input them. You kind of have to Jackie Chan it. You have to like drill the combo over and over again to get this like really cool ass combo. Um, and just to like show it off and be like, oh yeah, I did this. It took me like 1,000 tries or something like that. And then that's like a montage combo. And then you have something that is more akin to like a tournament combo, a combo that you can do more consistently, so that you can worry about the other things when it comes to fighting another player, like neutral, footsies, punishing, whiff punishing, anti-airing, option selecting, a ton of other things before you even get to that combo portion. So that concept of, this high skill thing being an exclusive thing that, you could drill and practice. And like, there are some players in the fighting game community that have really tried to like practice like hard as fuck combos and to use them in tournaments. And they made a name for themselves, but you look at the long-standing fighting game champions that have just survived every fighting game and have done like very well for themselves for multiple different fighting games. And all those champions, they're not like they don't do the highest hardest combo every time for every different fighting game. It's just not a thing. That doesn't win tournaments. The thing that wins tournaments are, the things that come before the combo. It's mind games, it's footsies, it's neutrals, it's whiff punching, anti-airs. If you can get a combo, great. But, it's neither here nor there. So the whole skill factor of it, it's it's up for debate. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do like this like high skill shit, and it's actually really good for the game. Because this is great for a montage. Like if you put some of this movement tech in like an Apex trailer to like a little kid, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, that's so cool! I want to do that, man! Oh my god, look at that! I'm moving so quick." I would have fallen for that shit too, man. Oh, 100%. But I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna let him keep going.
Such a frustrating endeavor for those committed to it. From my side of things, I want the fun, good, and useful movement tech to either be officially implemented so everyone
Yeah,
can enjoy it, and the skill expression comes from its creative use and not from nailing frame perfect inputs. And if that's not
yeah,
going to happen in Apex, I want all of the pain points that make movement tech feel so important to be fixed. And one last clarification to hammer things home. I think it's important to look at movement tech in a vacuum. Is being able to launch yourself off a mantle 70% of the time a good thing? It's pretty weird, so
yeah.
probably not. So why do we want to do that? That's really what I'm addressing here. Movement tech is
Well, you want to be able to do a super glide, number one, because it feels good to do it. And I would say all players of all skill levels will get a slight little dopamine hit when they can do a super glide. Everybody can. The M&K bro, well, not just M&K bros, because I mean, like some controller people can like practice the shit of it and do it too, and it's like, then there's like another gatekeep where if like you do a super glide, but then you like tap strafe into it, so you get this like zigzag shit, and you can do it from like all different directions. Go back, forth, left, right, right, left, forward, backward. So you can get into it, and you can gatekeep it again. But the MK bros just try to like move their hitboxes really quickly so they can just get behind a controller player so they can avoid being aim assisted and one clipped. That's essentially, I would imagine, what spawned it. But overall, like, I would say it just feels good. No, it's not really an intuitive thing that you would think would happen, physically, like in a shooter. Like, it makes no sense for someone to climb up something and then just go whoop. That makes no sense, like, in reality. But when you do it, it feels good. But yeah, that would probably be my only argument.
Unintended, inconsistent, clunky, and reduces readability. So why do we like it so much? Why are we so defensive when it gets nerfed? What's it really accomplishing for us? And is there a more elegant way to achieve that? And that'll
It's just a movement option. Sometimes you want to climb over something and zip right past somebody. Maybe another time, maybe you just want to climb up and start shooting. There's a bunch of different reasons.
about do it. I hope I was able to get my point across, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on movement in the comments. Is it fine as it is? Should it stay? Should it go? Should it be officiated? Or is there some other solution you have? And be sure to check out my new premium gaming sleeves and the Clawmate mouse mod over at struthgaminggear.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Oh shit.
Movement.
That was a pretty good video. I like it. I mean, let's talk about the movement of Apex and so on and so forth, and the ever declining population of M&K players. I mean, at least from like the North America standpoint, like everywhere else in the world, I have no idea the percentage of M&K to a controller. It's just since a lot of the time when the game is like seen in public, it's really North America that has all the big streaming people, all the views or whatever. They're all primarily North America based. And the other thing that comes with North America is that the trend is to just play on controller, and if you're not playing on controller, you have to be excessively good on M&K. Just a fact of the matter. So when you see that, it's very easy to see that, like, oh yeah, the game has crossplay, but it's when you see most of the streamers are playing on controller, then it's like, well, I guess I'll just play on controller. So that's the norm, I guess. I would imagine to some degree it's different for like other regions in the world. I don't know how skewed the input is, like as a percentage, like how many people play PC controller, PC M&K. I don't know those percentages, but I don't know. Overall, good video. Fantastic. I like when Struth breaks the stuff down like he does, and yeah, brought up a lot of good points. But yeah, I'm excited to see the next one, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.